All I'm saying is if you're a young man and you can't do this, then your masculinity is in severe decline, and you have to sort of reinforce that. Sombra del Piso back once again. We're gonna do a Peruse the News session. We're gonna do a Peruse the News. So, like I said in the last episode, we've purchased a subscription to News Plus, so we have a whole amalgam and myriad of news sources and angles. And we're gonna talk about these things. So like, comment, subscribe. Please, like I said, give me some advice on what I could do to make these Peruse the News videos better, just because this is my second episode. And if there's something, I don't know, if there's constructive criticism, let me know, guys, please. I enjoy talking about semen retention. I enjoy talking about ascension of the spirit. I enjoy talking about my travels. You know, I enjoy talking about how I know Spanish. But what's better is talking about other things, just to sort of communicate to you that the world is not necessarily as separate as it shows itself to be. And in fact, it's very, very correlated with a lot of the things that you may believe, that you may have grown up with, you know? So give me criticisms. I want to try to communicate that better to you guys. So like, comment, subscribe, let's get into it. I saved some stories here, guys. We're gonna go through this stuff. The Men's Health magazine has this article, written by a woman. It's a Men's Health magazine, right? And the article is written by a woman, of course. The title of the article is "This Man or Bear Question is Blowing Up on TikTok." Okay, if you guys don't know, on social media, women are saying that in the forest, they would rather be presented with a bear versus being presented with a man, right? So I'm gonna tell you guys my opinion on this, because this is incredibly silly. So just to give you a little bit of context to not really the man or bear situation, but these are the facts. Women have more college degrees than us men. Women are staying in college longer than us men. Women have better jobs than us men. Women are actually starting to get paid more than men, right? Women are not self-deleting more than men. I'm just gonna let you know. So individuals with all those very, very positive, uplifting statistics behind them they're obviously going to be eventually in positions of power. They're going to be in positions of leadership, positions of designating who gets what, or how should we allocate resources to this. These are, because clearly, you know, they have all the statistics behind them. They're staying in college, they're smarter, they're gonna make more money. And most of them are saying that they would rather be with a bear in a forest than run into a man. If this is not troubling for the future of our world, I don't know what is. I'm just saying, let's just see what Corey Ritchie has to say, the woman that wrote this article. Of course, talking about this online phenomena, right? Theoretically, if you were stuck in the woods, would you rather have the company of a bear or man? Seems like a relatively simple question, but the responses are stirring some controversy on TikTok and other social media platforms. Why? Because participants, like I said, women, right, that are way more, that, you know, are staying, you know, they're going to graduate school, they have better, you know, better jobs than we do, and are just doing better things in life. These participants are overwhelmingly choosing a bear. So Corey references this person that seems like they're from Superman's clan. The guy's name is actually Jor-El. Jor-El Caraballo. It can certainly be difficult to read feedback that a woman would be rather lost in the woods with a bear than a man. Our egos can take a hit when we read something like that. Most men don't think of themselves as bad guys, so of course they don't like to consider themselves as a potential perpetrator of harm. And the reality is most men are not abusive people. So we got this guy named after, ain't that Kal-El's father? Which is Superman? I don't know my DC as much as I think I do. But he's saying that a lot of guys are not really understanding this whole reasoning behind women choosing to rather be being shacked up with a bear in the woods rather than a man. It's like, I think what's going on here really is, this is like virtue signaling, right? I think this is like women are just sort of taking online and sort of broadcasting. Because I think a lot of women online just don't really like guys, don't really like men. I think whatever experiences they've had, a majority of women have told them about how men operate in real life. So they are presented with this situation, the man versus bear, and then they pick the bear. Like, this is insane. I think this is insane. And even so, like, the chances of you getting mauled by a bear is incredibly high. You know what I mean? It's like, if you choose to find solace within the arms of a bear or within the home of a bear, right, versus a guy, 9 times out of 10, the bear's gonna rip you to shreds and feast on you. I just don't understand why. It has to be like some sort of signaling, like, oh, you know, men are so horrible, they're so grotesque and so abusive mentally and all the facets thereof that one could be abusive in, that we'd rather shack up with a omnivorous, right, because bears eat berries. We'd rather shack up with an omnivorous animal. This is insane. It is difficult to accept the reality many share, a fear of physical assault, sexual violence, domestic abuse, and emotional mistreatment women and other marginalized communities encounter daily. There is not a late night subway ride where I'm not consistently glancing over my shoulder, nor is there a moment at a bar where I'm not aware of how close the man next to me is. Come on. There will always be the bad apples. There will always be a small group of individuals that, that allow the horrible painting of the rest of those individuals from that group because of the acts that they committed. And the fact that the majority of women, and this is the writer of the article now, this is the writer expressing her truths, right? The fact that she's also agreeing with this essentially, that she would rather find solace with a bear than with a man in the woods. Like, this is insane. This is insane to me. This is crazy. How other people may experience men out in the world. It's important that we understand those perspectives to be more aware and less harmful in our daily interactions. I think that this is just an attempt, right, to further shame guys for being who they are. I'm not saying that naturally we're predators. I'm not saying that naturally we seek to assault individuals, whether it be men and women. Of course, in this example that Corey has decided to back, specifically women. We're assaulting specifically women. No, I'm not saying that that's who we are. I think that they just want men to consistently be over self-aware to the point where we have to now, we can't act like this because it might be interpreted as uncomfortable, or we can't act like this because they might say this and it'll look bad on us. The idea is the removal and the erosion of masculinity. This is what's going on here in this world. And this silly man versus bear story is just another way, another facet, another angle of attack. To be honest, I think if I was in that situation, I'd probably pick for the bear so I could get ripped asunder, so I can leave this silly world. This is the final sentence in here. If you're feeling, final paragraph, if you're feeling a certain way about people choosing the bear, it might be time to take a step back and evaluate why. If it were your wife, daughter, sister, or mom stuck in the woods, would you rather them be there with a bear or a predatory man? The thing is, that's not that wasn't the story. That wasn't the thing. That wasn't the deal. The idea is, would you rather be in the woods with a man, a regular, simple, normal man with, listens to drum and bass, gets rejected for jobs, takes the public transportation everywhere, right? Normal man. They're saying, would you rather be with someone like that or a bear if you were in the woods? And most women would choose a bear. Like, that's silly as hell. Silly, silly, silly. I think that this is an article that's indicative of the direction of our society, which is idiocy. That's what it is. Let's talk about something else, right? Something a little intellectual, right? We're using our sense a little here. So this is from this Streets blog news article or news source by Idanis Rodriguez. The name of the article is "What Would Happen If We Electrified Every Bus in America?" So this is interesting. America would reap massive public health and emissions reduction benefits from electrifying its bus fleet. A new study confirms, even if we only replace the diesel buses that are too old to run anyway, or focus all our energies on greening the largest cities alone. I am all for taking care of Mother Earth, but we live, unfortunately, or fortunately, right? Rather, we live in a capitalist society, which means that we need to purchase things, right? We need to purchase things in order to have access to things, whether it be goods, services. This sounds great in theory, right? Because electric buses or electric vehicles have less CO2 emissions, carbon dioxide emissions, into the atmosphere, which will sort of preserve, our way of life. You know, we wouldn't have to wear masks, oxygen masks, in decades to come. But I think that with situations like this or articles like this that sort of try to harrow in on the cause of an issue, instead, I think they miss hitting the target of the actual cause of this thing, which are corporations. First of all, factories owned by corporations cause the most CO2 emissions, right? They dump all this stuff into the air, they dump all these poisons into the rivers, they kill and mutate a lot of wildlife, all because they're trying to avoid paying costs, which are relative to the amount of revenue that they make quarterly, is nothing, right? They're trying to avoid the cost of how to properly dispose of things. That's the real cause of this problem. Forcing the cost on the consumer in order to pick up slack for the corporations is not going to solve anything, because corporations are still going to do what they do. Cost evade, right? Avoid paying proper wages when they have outsourced goods and resources, right, and services for their companies to run, and all of that stuff. Let's continue. Let's see. Contrary to the weirdly persistent myth that e-buses don't really cut pollution when you factor in things like the emissions required to produce and charge them, a recent study from Carnegie Mellon University found that electrifying America's bus fleet could slash between 1 and 2/3 of the fleet's total greenhouse gases. Okay, so they're talking about reducing the greenhouse gas emissions from a certain group. We're not talking about how to solve the issue in the world, the CO2 emissions that are happening all over the world, right? What's the leading cause of that? We're not tackling these issues, right? Because we're afraid of scaring or stepping on the toes of our corporate overseers, right? Lest we lose a job, lest we get blacklisted, all that stuff from work, all that stuff. Some advocates even have argued we could reduce those environmental impacts even faster by simply improving bus service to get Americans out of cars. Getting Americans out of, I love it's sunny now. It's so sunny now. Having Americans or people in the world using cars, right, is not going to solve this issue. For some reason, these guys are afraid of stepping on the toes of these corporate bigwigs that are leading this whole cause and charge of producing CO2 emissions in this place. It's not having the consumer brunt the costs of switching to an electric car or getting rid of their diesel car to take public transportation, which is, on an electric bus, right? Is not going to solve the problem. This is the issue. And like I was saying in the beginning, we're talking about capitalism. We live in a capitalist society. These services cost money. You can't expect us. Jobs are bad right now. First of all, I already know, it's me. I'm Sombra del Piso. I have never been able to really ascend in the work world. I've never been able to work corporate. I've always had these basic level jobs, even though I have 2 degrees and a certification, right? We're not gonna talk about that, right? So now it's hitting everyone. People can't get jobs. Things are way more expensive than they ever were. It's unlikely that you'll own a house in America, especially in the big cities. Don't even talk about Seattle, New York, and Los Angeles, right? So all in all, everything is expensive. Can you imagine asking the consumer to start paying for more things in order to save the world? So the world governments join them on their crusade in making the world a cleaner, less carbon emittive place, right? What needs to be done is we need to attack the problem at its root, not cut off a branch. It is corporate greed and their unwillingness to dispose of their toxic radioactive goods in a fair, controlled, safe way that is leading the problem of CO2 emissions. This is my 2 cents. All right, we're gonna do one last article. And we're gonna move on from here. From the Wired magazine. Ooh, a little edgy. I like the design and everything. Wired has been around for a very long time. These guys are talking about on the head of this article, written by a Max G. Levy, right? Saunas are the next frontier in fighting depression. The preliminary results of a clinical trial using heat exposure to combat depression are in and are fueling cautious optimism that sauna practice could become an accepted treatment. Probably not going to be covered by most medical insurances, right? Where you could already tell that, okay, depression is rising. We're not going to talk about in what sex specifically, but I'll give you the answer. In men, more men have been more depressed than ever. Instead of tackling the root cause, like we talked about in the last article, about CO2 emissions, we're just putting a Band-Aid on a whole flesh wound. What else did they say? Researchers have since noticed that when someone's depression improves, their body temperature regularizes or sort of regulates, right? No matter how their depression got better, electroconvulsive therapy, psychotherapy, antidepressants, whatever, says Ashley Mason, a clinical psychologist. This got Mason thinking, if the two are linked, what happens to a depressed person's symptoms if you provoke a change in their temperature? So again, they are trying to put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, a shotgun wound, right? A bazooka blast, right? Shrapnel. What is really causing depression, right? Maybe let's talk about the sex that experiences the most depression, men. What is causing the most depression in men, right? And why do you think that putting them in a sauna is gonna destroy that root cause? It's just gonna sort of temporarily alleviate the symptoms, but after that sauna visit and the talk with Barry about that old man that's been going to the sauna for years that has like 3 or 4 kids, got married in a more traditional and less social media saturated age, he still, our example, our young man still has to deal with society. He still has to deal with his life and go back into that cause that is that got him depressed in the first place. So this is good. The sauna is great. I've been in a sauna, I wasn't depressed going in. I wasn't depressed going out, but I didn't feel emotionally different leaving the sauna. I just felt, a little hot, right? I felt sweating. I felt a little uncomfortable, to be honest. This is good, I guess, to some degree, but I think what's even better is if we had more news sources talking about the main causes of rising and growing the troubling rates of male depression. I think that's more important. We're not going to talk about that, are we? We're not going to talk about that. The premise of this is great, says Eric Lee, a physiologist with the Montreal Heart Institute, who was not involved in the study, but has led sauna studies since completing his doctoral research in Finland. Trying to move away from pharmacology is a good thing. More than 250 million people worldwide have a major depressive disorder, and tens of millions of people don't respond to any available treatment, right? So, of course, not taking drugs to solve depression or to mitigate the effects of depression is a good thing, because we don't know the after effects or the side effects of these drugs. We don't know about the hormonal changes that these drugs can induce, the mental changes, so on and so forth. But again, we are not hitting the root cause of this problem. What is the cause of this mass depression? Is it rising costs? Is it rising inflation? Is it the ever-growing disparity and chasm between the sexes? Discomfort with being in social situations that people of an earlier time wouldn't have, because of maybe the changed political landscape? I think that if we go and solve these issues and we figure them out, I think that we'll have a better time mitigating the symptoms of the people that happen to remain depressed. right? I think this is it. Unless we're hitting the root cause, this is all useless, this is all silly, and it's just going to make people more depressed, because people that are depressed, when they receive a moment's respite from their depression, right? Remember, moment's respite, highlight on that phrase, and they go back into depression, the depression is gonna hit way more, because they felt what heaven sort of feels like, a break from their dark, depressing thoughts were like. They felt that, so it's gonna be even darker. We gotta hit the main causes, that's what I'm saying. Hit the root cause, and then we'll solve the issue. Stop putting Band-Aids on bullet wounds. And with that being said, Soma del Piso gone. If you like that content, like, comment, subscribe. Please leave me some constructive criticism on the goddamn video. I need to understand what I can do to make this a bit more appealing to you guys, or to improve just the communication of these news sources, these articles. So don't let this world get you down. CO2 emissions is happening. We're not tackling the root causes of anything. Depression is at an all-time high. Life just seems incredibly heavy. The gravitas of the political landscape, and just the communication between the sexes, and just people in life it's heavy. It's horrible. But we're gonna get through it. Semen retention is the way, young men. Semen retention. Have an activity, get some friends, and let's just keep ascending. And stay radiant. I'll see you guys in the next one. Woo!